Cynthia, Michael, thank you.
And coming up next at 5, car inspections, bond-sniffing dogs, and hundreds of undercover cops. It's going to be a U.S. Open like no other. We're live for you.
Plus, are we ready for a bioterror attack? New Jersey unveils a new weapon in the fight against terrorism.
A new study has just kicked off here in New York looking at an experimental treatment for autism. I'm Dr. Mike Rosen. I'll give you all the details on how your child can participate. Coming up.
Those stories plus the Yankees' last home game before a possible strike.
We talk with players and fans next at 5.
Right now on CBS 2 News at 5, from bomb-sniffing dogs to hundreds of undercover cops. Get ready for a U.S. Open like no other.
Also, fears of West Nile are very real on Long Island after the death of a man. Hear what health officials are doing.
And one of the biggest studies ever on autism uncovers a potential treatment.
Live from the CBS 2 Information Center in New York, this is CBS 2 News at 5.
On this Monday, good evening. I'm Ernie Anastas.
And I'm Mary Kelly in for Dana Tyler. New York City law enforcement has a big task at hand.
The job protecting fans, players, and workers of the world's largest tennis event in Flushing Meadows. They're doing that by taking unprecedented security steps.
CBS 2 News Queens reporter Rose Walia is live at the U.S. Open with that story for us. Rose.
Well, Mary, Ernie, you have every local and federal authority here manning security. So far today, though, at the U.S. Open, no problem. They're sniffing around for weapons, checking cars for explosives, and directing traffic. The NYPD is out in force at the U.S. Tennis Center at Flushing Meadows Park. Whether it's undercover or in uniform, hundreds of officers are working with federal authorities to keep things safe at the U.S. Open for its duration. Any incidents at all today?
None whatsoever. Things could not be going more smoothly. From the earliest of the early morning hours, the police department has done a simply outstanding job.
There are no book bags of any size allowed in.
This year, no backpacks, briefcases, coolers, video cameras, or glass bottles allowed in, and it's only one bag per person. Every one and thing is being examined carefully.
I don't think anyone's going to bother the tennis matches.
You don't think so? But are you glad to see the security anyway?
Yes.
I'm sure it's going to be tight, but
you didn't bring anything with you?
I didn't. I actually left my bag at home, knowing that they're going to, not let me in with it, which is perfectly fine with me.
Those who didn't hear about the rules had to check their items in a nearby tent, but only after they paid $10. Charles Truslow from Virginia says it's unfair.
You have other people that are allowed to bring bags in that can hold the same thing as your backpack in a duffel bag. So to me, it seems like it's more of a money gimmick.
Because you got to pay $10.
Because you have to pay $10.
Officials say if you are coming to the match tonight at 7 o'clock, get here 1 hour early so that you can pick up tickets if you need to and also get checked out at the gates. We're live at Flushing Meadows Park. Rose Walia, CBS 2 News, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Rose. And players and fans at this year's tournament will be paying a special tribute to the heroes of September the 11th. Besides the grueling matches, patriotic pride is taking center court at Arthur Ashe Stadium, along with the Sea of Stars and Stripes. A symbolic firefighter statue stands at the stadium's complex entrance. It honors the heroes who died on 9/11. CBS 2's Amy Stone spoke to one tennis official who says that this year's Open takes on a new meaning.
Last year, the men's finals concluded 36 hours before the entire world changed, and we thought about what we could do in our little way to pay tribute to civilian and uniform heroes.
It's been 8 years since the city's mayor attended the Open. Mayor Bloomberg is expected to make a speech at tonight's Salute to Heroes ceremony. Penny Crone will have much more on the ceremony coming up tonight on CBS 2 News at 6. And don't forget, you can catch all of the U.S. Open action right here on CBS 2. And all this week, the CBS 2 News at noon will come to you live from Flushing Meadows.
It's a question that's haunted our government since 9/11. If terrorists strike again, will our hospitals be prepared? Today, officials in New Jersey unveiled technology that could mean the difference between life and death. They look like a simple radio and telephone, but they could be the key to saving thousands of lives in another terrorist attack.
This unique radio system will ensure, regardless of the circumstances or the tragedy confronted, New Jersey hospitals will be able to communicate flawlessly with the highest degree of quality as well as quantity of information.
Today, New Jersey Governor James McGreevey announced plans for a new emergency radio system, one that will link the state's 85 acute care hospitals by the end of the year and provide instant, unbroken communications between EMS, physicians, and government agencies.
Radios are a safety net. They are a backup system that allows communication if landline telephones, if cell phones, if internet communications become inoperable.
New Jersey is the first state in the country to implement this backup system. It was recommended by a state task force in the wake of 9/11 when severe communication breakdowns hindered rescue efforts.
The achievement of this two-way radio system will enhance public safety and ensure that New Jersey is a national leader in communications disaster preparedness.
Governor McGreevey says New Jersey hospitals are footing the entire $1.5 million bill for the system. No word on when it will be implemented in New York hospitals.
New developments in the anthrax investigation. The FBI will take another look now at an anthrax-tainted building in Florida. The Boca Raton building is home to tabloid publisher American Media. It's been sealed off since last fall when a worker there became the first person to die from the anthrax mailings. The FBI explained why it's going back in.
The reason is simple. The results of the evidence collection that was done last October were generally reported as either positive or negative for anthrax. Since then, we've developed techniques that will allow us to determine the quantity and the distribution of the spores.
In the meantime, tests conducted at 3 New Jersey postal facilities have come back negative for anthrax spores. The sites were tested after a tainted mailbox was discovered in Princeton. No additional testing is planned.
White House lawyers are clearing the way for President Bush to target Iraq for a possible attack, citing constitutional authority to go to war without congressional approval. Speaking in Nashville, Vice President Cheney made the administration's strongest arguments yet for a first attack.
Simply stated, there is no doubt that Saddam Hussein now has weapons of mass destruction. There is no doubt that he is amassing them to use against our friends, against our allies, and against us.
Meantime, hundreds of Iraqis turned out for the funerals of 8 victims killed during a bombing raid by Western coalition planes. Yesterday, Britain and U.S. commanders said their planes attacked only after being threatened. The war on terrorism may mean double duty for thousands of National Guard members and reservists. With U.S. troops spread throughout Afghanistan and other regions, the Air Force has already notified at least 14,000 reservists that they may be needed for a second straight year of active duty. The biggest group facing an extended term, 5,700 Air National Guard security troops who protect bases in the U.S. and overseas. Officials say thousands of other Guard members and reservists may also be needed.
In the Middle East, Israeli troops are keeping up the pressure on Palestinian cities. This despite a recent lull in terrorist attacks. CBS 2 Middle East Bureau Chief Kimberly Dozier has this report tonight from Israel.
Sick of Israel's military curfew, young men in Jenin challenged their captors and paid for their defiance. Early this morning, Israeli troops rolled in with a vengeance, seeking and finding a man they say is a leading Hamas militant. These raids will continue, Israelis say, because they keep getting tips of planned militant attacks. Israel's defense minister, meanwhile, has frustrated Palestinian hopes for more Israeli troop withdrawals following the pullout from Bethlehem last week. He says his tanks and troops will stay put, perhaps for the next 6 weeks, through the Israeli religious holidays. There were more grim words from a senior Israeli commander.
Israel's new army chief of staff has called the Palestinian threat a cancer that must be defeated by a decisive Israeli victory. Palestinian officials say that shows at least some parts of the Israeli leadership haven't yet finished with war.
The Israelis are backing down again from any understanding we reach with them. And this is a very dangerous situation.
But Israeli officials say there's no sign Palestinian forces are stepping in to protect their Israeli neighbors or even their own people. This woman was reportedly killed by Palestinian extremists who accused her of collaborating with Israel to help catch militant suspects. Israeli officials say the Palestinians are simply not yet ready to make war on their own to bring peace. Kimberly Dozier, CBS 2 News, Tel Aviv.
And the State University of New York has done an about-face regarding its Study in Israel program. Earlier this month, SUNY announced it was suspending the program because of security concerns. But after Governor Pataki was criticized for the move, the university reinstated that program. Mary.
A security scare at Kennedy Airport forced police to clear out a main terminal. Hundreds of people waited outside Terminal 4 last night while police checked a piece of luggage left inside a men's room. Arriving planes were kept on runways for an hour while bomb-sniffing dogs were brought in. Police said there was nothing dangerous inside the bag at JFK.
The NYPD and the police in Buffalo are now trying to hunt down a fugitive wanted for 2 murders in Brooklyn. Yesterday, police say that they got a tip that 38-year-old Andre Neverson may be hiding in the basement of this house in Buffalo. Investigators from both the NYPD and local police say that they missed Neverson by just minutes. Neverson is wanted for a shooting death of his sister Patricia in her Crown Heights home. He is also suspected of killing his former girlfriend Donna Davis 2 days later.
The mystery of 2 Oregon teenagers who disappeared from their apartment complex appears to be solved. 39-year-old Ward Weaver, a man who was their neighbor, is now the prime suspect. As CBS 2 national correspondent Chris Lawrence tells us, 2 sets of remains were found over the weekend on property where Weaver used to live.
The shrine in Oregon City now stretches the length of a city block. Hundreds of flowers, cards, and candles built by a public who made this crime personal.
I hate to think that these mothers have been stripped of their daughters. I hate to see that these brothers and sisters are never going to see them again. It's not fair.
Most never knew Ashley or Miranda, but now the girls' relatives know a little more about their neighbors.
The community has been like family since all this started. Everybody's been supportive.
Ashley Pond disappeared on her way to school in January. Miranda Gaddis 2 months later. Police found Miranda's remains in Ward Weaver's shed and removed a second body buried under a concrete slab. On Monday, FBI agents used radar to examine other parts of his property.
So they will pick up any disturbance in the ground, such as digging a hole that's been filled in. They will pick that up.
Weaver was recently arrested on an unrelated rape charge, and he fits the FBI profile developed last winter. He lives across the street and knew both girls. Some have questioned why it took police so long to search his home, but not Miranda's grandfather.
The police took the time they needed, and they did it right. They found my granddaughter.
There's an interesting family connection with Weaver as well. His father sits on death row in California because about 20 years ago, he raped and murdered a woman, then buried her body in the backyard and paved it over. In Oregon City, Chris Lawrence, CBS 2 News.
The cause of Miranda's death will be determined when an autopsy is completed. Weaver says he allowed the FBI to search his property because, quote, he wanted the families to have closure.
There is a consumer alert tonight concerning a popular breakfast sandwich, and we have it for you next.
Plus, will today be the Yankees' last home game of the season? We talked to fans about Friday's looming strike date.
And also tonight, some good news for Martha Stewart. We have word from congressional investigators.
Plus, here a scientist's search for a cure for AIDS has led them to the sea and giant manatees.
And I'm meteorologist Janine D'Adamo. Take a look right here. The clouds are coming up and into our neighborhoods, and they will soon be followed by rainfall. Don't miss my forecast. It's coming up.
For many, it's hard to believe we are 4 days and counting to a possible strike by Major League Baseball players. CBS 2 News was at Yankee Stadium today for what could be the last home game of the season. That's if there is a strike on Friday. There are some positive developments, though, between the players' union and the owners. The big issue is the so-called luxury tax on teams that spend $98 million or more on their annual payroll. But many fans say that it's all about greed.
I think they're greedier than the players. The players have the talent.
I think the players make a ton of money for playing a boys' game, and that the management is barely making ends meet. And if they don't put in some regional limitations like every other sport has, basketball has it, football has it, why shouldn't baseball have it too?
And some fans told us if there's a strike, forget about taking them out to the ball game ever again.
Federal investigators aren't finding any evidence to charge Martha Stewart in the ImClone scandal. Stewart has turned over emails, phone records, and other documents related to her sale of ImClone stock. She cashed out just before the stock tanked. Congressional investigators have gone over her documents looking for possible evidence that she had inside information on the stock. Although they haven't found anything, they're asking for more records and may still subpoena Stewart to testify.
Well, the week on Wall Street starts off on an up note. Ed Crane has been following the action. He joins us live right now from CBS Market Watch. Ed.
Ernie, a little bit of everything today. Bears in the morning, bulls in the afternoon. After shedding more than 100 points in the first few hours, the Dow came roaring back this afternoon. The Dow finishing up 46 points. The Nasdaq was also down early, but picked up steam at mid-afternoon, ended up 11 points higher. The S&P mirrored the Nasdaq much of the day and ended 7 points up. Dow winners include Home Depot, American Express, and J.P. Morgan Chase. Boeing, McDonald's, and IBM were among the more bearish plays. Jittery about the markets, perhaps. More of us are making our homes our biggest investment. New home sales up a sizzling 6.7% in July. Existing home sales were up 4.5% as interest rates dipped to historic lows, the lowest since 1967. To bolster that theory, there's word that a record $49 billion was dumped out of stock mutual funds last month. We know $19 billion in fresh money moved over to bond funds. There's also word that Nestle has been kissing up to Hershey, reportedly offering $11.5 billion for the chocolate giant. That would be a sweet $82 per share for stockholders. Not a done deal, though, with Kraft Foods and Cadbury Schweppes said to be among those also making bids for Mr. Goodbar and Company. Babies are booming business these days. Berkshire Industries, the owner of baby apparel maker Carter Holdings, plans to offer newborn shares of its company, rolling out a $100 million IPO. Finally, a sign of the times from state securities regulators cracking their top 10 when it comes to investment fraud we should watch out for. Bad advice from unscrupulous stockbrokers and financial analysts who have conflicting interests. Get more on our website, cbs.marketwatch.com. Back to you, Ernie and Mary.
All right, let's see what tomorrow brings. Thanks, Ed.
Time now for a check of the forecast from CBS 2 Weather Central.
And here's meteorologist Janine Diadamo sitting in for David Rogers today. Janine.
That's right, Ernie. We're talking about cloud cover, at least for the rest of today and for much of the week, too. Let's take a look outside right now at our skyline, the beautiful Chrysler Building shining right now, the Empire State Building, Citicorp. You know, we're looking for clouds much of the week, and it's all because of one area of low pressure down to our south. So we'll get to that, but first we'll start with the temperatures, which are so comfortable. It's 82 right now. Skies are cloudy. We have a little bit of a westerly wind. Humidity is in check. It feels kind of comfortable outside right now, at least compared to what it could be in the last week of August, and the barometer is falling. So your numbers are looking good. Ridge right now, it's cloudy and 77 for you. That west wind also blowing a Newton, 27 for you also. And city temperatures are just above 80, pretty much average where they should be this time of the year. But here's what's going on the satellite picture. Watch what happens here. The clouds are coming out of the south. They're not coming north out of Canada. This means this storm system is coming out of the mid-Atlantic. It's going to bring us a very tropical air mass given a little bit of time. For right now, though, cloud cover and the rain down to our south. But here's what happens as we head through the week. This upper level low is basically cut off. That means it's not going to move out quickly. It's just going to sit and spin all the way through Saturday. So a while. So by middle of the week, we're looking for low pressure to slide up the coast, plenty of rainfall and cloud cover. But then by the end of the week, this warm front will push through the area, and that means our weather will be very much like what they're getting in Miami. Very tropical air, humid air, and thunderstorms, especially late in the day, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So tonight, we're getting a break. The rainfall doesn't arrive until tomorrow night. So cloudy skies, temperatures pretty comfortable, 60 in Goshen, 69 in New York City, then climbing to highs tomorrow in the upper 70s, around 80. Basically a lot like it was today with light winds and cloudy skies. But here's what happens as we head into the next few days. The U.S. Open, you're okay for tomorrow with the cloud cover temperatures just under 80. But let's head into Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and you have plenty of rain in the forecast. The upper level low should bring us thunderstorms, even Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and temperatures start climbing again to close to 90 degrees by the weekend. So, like I said, by the end of the week, it feels like Miami weather. In the meantime, Mary will enjoy the cloud cover and cooler temperatures.
We sure will. Thank you so much. Well, we have a consumer alert to tell you about regarding a popular breakfast sandwich. Swanson is recalling a variety of its Great Starts biscuit sandwiches. The egg, cheese, and bacon variety has soy protein in it, and that could cause a life-threatening reaction in people with a soy allergy. If you bought the sandwiches, you can return it to the place you bought it for a full refund. If you have any questions, call the CBS 2 Information Center at 866-INFO-2. That's 866-INFO-2.
Time now to take a look and see what's coming up on CBS 2 News tonight at 6. It could happen in your neighborhood. A convicted sex offender moves in just blocks from your child's school. We're live with worried parents facing the first day of class. And a CBS 2 exclusive. A family who lost a son in the World Trade Center is faced with having to relive his funeral over and over again to keep their faith true to life. Those stories and much more coming up tonight on CBS 2 News at 6.
Scientists are turning to a strange creature in their search for a cure for the AIDS virus. Researchers say sea manatees, also called sea cows, have a supercharged immune system. Now doctors are looking to the manatee for tips on how to provide a boost for the human immune system. Since manatees are able to fend off just about any disease, scientists hope they can help find ways for humans to do the same.
That sounds nice. Yeah. If you live on Long Island, getting around on the weekend is about to get a whole lot easier. We'll tell you what the MTA has planned.
A bombshell in the Democratic race for governor. Here the charges leveled against Carl McCall's running mate. And also tonight, a possible major medical breakthrough in tonight's Health Watch. One of the largest autism studies ever uncovers a potential treatment. Coming up. Well, the other shoe may have dropped in the Democratic race for governor. It's a possible political bombshell involving the #2 man on Carl McCall's ticket. And CBS 2's Marcia Kramer is joining us right now with more on that story. Marcia.
Well, Ernie, Democratic gubernatorial candidate Carl McCall and running mate Dennis Meehl went into damage control mode today, trying to downplay the importance of the story that Meehl fathered 2 kids with 2 different women while he was separated from his first wife.
Dennis has never made a secret of this. He's completely disclosed it. And what's important is he supports his children. He takes care of his children and gives them the kind of financial and emotional support that they need. And that's what we expect of a father.
Carl McCall and multimillionaire Westchester businessman Dennis Meehl are running as a team. When Democratic voters go to the polls September 10th, they will vote for each man separately. McCall running against Andrew Cuomo in the gubernatorial primary, Meehl running against Charles King in the lieutenant governor's primary. Nevertheless, McCall stuck by his running mate today.
Dennis Meehl will be a partner with me.
But Meehl was clearly perturbed that his personal life, the fact that he fathered 2 kids with 2 different women during his 7-year separation from the wife he finally divorced, was now a big-time campaign issue. And so he struck back, charging that the leak of the story just 2 weeks before the primary was a negative campaign trick from Team Cuomo.
It came to our attention that the Cuomo campaign had decided to make my family circumstance an issue in the primary campaign in an effort to damage Carl McCall based on Carl's association with me and the fact that we're running as a ticket.
Meehl didn't deny the story, saying he was separated from his first wife, the mother of 5 of his children, when he got the 2 other women pregnant. He later married the mother of his youngest child. He claimed his personal life was not an event in the life of the campaign.
I don't think it has any effect on our platform. Our platform is about the families of New York. Our platform is not about my family.
Now, Team Cuomo said the charges that they leaked the story to the media were outrageous. One Cuomo operative said the source was much more likely to be the Republicans, who would want to take Meehl out of the equation so he wouldn't be able to invest his personal fortune in the gubernatorial race.
Marcia, Carl McCall's campaign has been hit now a couple of times with negative attacks. What's going on?
Well, a lot of the pundits, the people who watch this race, say that they think that this is an attempt by the Republicans to try to get McCall out of the race because they think it would be much easier for Governor Pataki to run against Andrew Cuomo than Carl McCall.
Interesting background. Thanks, Marcia.
And we will be back with much more at 6 o'clock.
And right now the news continues with Cindy Hsu and Michael Pomerantz in for Todd McDermott with what's straight ahead at 5:30.
All right, Ernie, Mary, thank you.
Coming up next, fears are spreading about West Nile virus with the first confirmed death in our area. We are live with details because a list of the areas getting sprayed tonight.
Also, with the Jewish holidays approaching now, the threat of terrorism very real. So what security steps are being taken?
Plus, New York City rolls out the red carpet for the Harlem Little Leaguers. We're going to tell you how everyone from President Clinton to the bigwigs on Wall Street are getting in on the action.
We'll have those stories for you, plus a check of traffic tonight coming up at 5:30.